What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet, where we live to play with toys. Today, we're going to be taking a look at this guy, the Transformers Studio Series 86 Grimlock. And before we even get started, just look at that guy. What a commanding presence. This is a great looking figure. Now, before I get too deep into talking about the figure himself, let's do what we normally do, and we're going to take a look at that packaging. We'll take a look at everything that comes in that packaging, and then we'll get into the figure. So let's go ahead and move him out of the way. And let's bring in that box as good as I can. This is a leader class, so it's a good size box. So right there on the front, you have Grimlock 8606, the sixth figure in the Studio 86 line. Transformers the movie down there. Bring it over to the side. Some good artwork. He does have Wheelie up there. We'll be taking a look at Wheelie as well. Take a look at the back of the box. Up here, there you go. Big screen inspired. Mockery of Justice. Backdrop included. Grimlock and the Dinobots storm the Quintesson courtroom. You do have the sad baby down there, so that brings me comfort and joy. One thing I want to note is there are a few differences between the product shots and the actual Grimlock himself. It's nothing major, just a couple things that I noted. First of all, Wheelie doesn't actually sit on Grimlock the way they're showing on the box. So Wheelie actually pegs in to these pegs right here. So maybe it's possible for you to get Wheelie in this position, but I don't think he'd be very stable. Then you have the arms. There's no chrome on the arms of the figure. And this is not translucent in the neck area. That's just solid. So just a couple things to know. Oh, also on the chest plate, this is translucent, but it's not a yellow translucent. It's a very dark, smoky gray translucent plate. On the side, again, you've got some good artwork. He is a leader class. Up top, Transformers the movie. And on the bottom, all right, so let's get that packaging out of the way. We'll start talking a little bit about what came in it. First and foremost, we will take a look at that display. Again, this is a good size display here for a good size figure. So what we can do is we'll bring Grimmy in, prop him up there so you can take a look and see how that looks. Not too shabby. I like it. Personally, I don't use the displays for my shelf display. They take up too much room, but I love the way that they look with these figures. So anybody who's going to maybe only have a handful of these figures on the displays, I think they look really good this way. So, but for me, this will go back into the box and go into storage. Let's get this out of the way. Next thing, we'll talk about all your warnings in all your different languages. So, you know, good kindling, I suppose. Then you get the instructions. Same as I've said many times before, clear, concise illustrations. Walks you through pretty well on the transformation and the weapon storage. He does come with his rifle. Again, it's pretty decently detailed. You don't have any paint apps on this gun. So you just have some good molded in detail there. And of course, he comes with Wheelie. So let's talk about Wheelie real quick and just go ahead and get that out of the way. Wheelie is, he's articulated. He's non-transformable, but his articulation is kind of strange. And it is meant for the pose of Wheelie sitting on Grimlock, either on his shoulder in robot mode or on his neck in dinosaur mode. So you do have limited articulation. I mean, his head is on a swivel here, so you can, you know, move his head 360 and get him angled the way you want. This arm is fixed in this position other than the shoulder, which comes out pretty easily, but also goes back on pretty easily. But he is limited. He doesn't come out very far. That's it. But you do get a full 360 if you need it. Full 360 here as well. But again, the same thing. This arm is fixed. He has his slingshot. Now, the slingshot component does come out, I wouldn't recommend taking it out because it's very small, really easy to lose. But you can angle that the way you want. So if you want to try to set up a shot as such, you can angle the slingshot a little bit. So it kind of makes sense, the angle of the slingshot to the string, the imaginary bow or string that he's pulling back. He does have waist rotation, so that helps with the posability when he's mounted on Grimlock. And then his legs are fixed in this bent position, but you do have freedom of movement at the hips. So, you know, if you wanted, you could get him on his knees like that, or you could put him on the ground. I've got my camera pulled way back, guys, because of the size of Grimlock. So if Wheelie looks really small, it's because he is. So you could do something like that as well with Wheelie if you didn't want him on Grimlock. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about real quick that I was a little disappointed. I'll bring Grimlock back in so we can look at him while I talk. Grimlock has been known at times to have a sword, and I was really hoping that in this iteration, in this release, that he would have some type of sword, and he did not. He only came with his rifle and with Wheelie. So what I did is I went ahead and I printed off a sword for Grimlock. So you'll see this in the thumbnail image for the video, and I am going to use this for posing, and I think it's a good look for him. Now, credit where credit is due. This is a design that was posted on the website Thingiverse by a user by the name of Firetox, T-O-X. And what I'll do is I will put a link in the description to the model on Thingiverse. So for anybody else who has this figure who wants to print this sword out, then credit goes where it is due. But yeah, overall, I mean, Firetox, good detail on this. This looks really nice. I printed it out in copper. I thought that would look kind of cool. I was kind of going for almost an Energon Axe kind of look. And I think overall it came out pretty well. All right, so let's talk about the figure. Bring him in. Now, I talked about his just his overall presence, which is really nice, but I do want to get one gripe out of the way real quick. You're going to see this as I handle him. So, major disappointment that I have here is this chest wing in the back is very loose. So even as I move him, you will see, if I grab him by the waist, you're going to see this thing just flops. Now, the other one does not. So, yeah, that's just kind of disappointing. This one is nice and tight. This one is just, yeah. So this is going to flop around a lot as I'm going through the review, so apologies. Now this hinge is tight. It's just this hinge right here is loose. So a little bit of a disappointment there. Now, overall, we'll bring him in. We'll take a look at some details. It's hard to see, but he does have some nice blue for the eyes. And the head sculpt details are pretty good. Not decked out in paint or anything, but the details are there. There's the chest piece that I was talking about. So it is translucent. You can see the Autobot symbol behind it, but it's difficult to see through there. Would have been nice if this was just a little bit lighter. Maybe not as smoky as what they have it. But that chest overall, good levels of detail there. The arms, you know, no complaints there. I mean, these look great. I mean, lots of molded in detail. Yes, there could have been some additional paint apps, but I understand with costs being what they are. Then you've got detail here in the waist and the crotch area. Come down to the legs. Not a lot to talk about here, but you do have some molded in detail. And then down here, these look really good. I like this. So yeah, overall, details on this guy, he looks good. There he is from the side. So I'll try to close those in. Overall, he's a pretty clean transformation. I mean, even with his dino head hanging off in the back here, he comes across pretty clean. Details in the back, Again, we'll see a lot of this in dyno mode because you're looking at his neck here and his chest and, of course, his T-Rex arms. Back of the legs. Good detail there. I mean, even on the inside here, you get good amounts of detail. His claws are decked out in the gold. Even the fists have a decent amount of detail on them, really. So overall, yeah, I would say this guy, there was some attention given to him. He could have benefited from some additional paint apps, but what he has, again, the overall presence of this figure is very nice. So let's bring him in and talk about the articulation. So first thing, we'll just talk about that head. Try to keep it fixed here. Now, you'll notice that there's nothing that locks this in place. It's similar to, for those of you who have the War for Cybertron Siege Megatron, his head just kind of flops up and down like that. This is a similar syndrome for Grimlock here. But beyond that, his head is on a ball joint. So he does get the forward and back, left and right, and a full 360. And then let's move the chest wings out of the way. For his shoulder comes straight out like this. And something else that I want to point out, again, an attention to detail, is even in this, although this is a little bit hollow right here, you can see that there's just enough detail in there that the designers have taken the time to account for any hollow areas and try to fill those in as best they can. Now, not much they can do here because this is the fists fold in for transformation, but for the shoulders, even under here, pretty good job. So shoulders come out that far. They can do a full 360. You just need to be aware of the chest wing back here so you can get that all the way around. The elbows, you do get over 90 degrees of bend. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of this gap right here in the way the elbows bend, but I understand that the reason that they had to do that because the transformation or the bend for the leg in dinosaur mode is actually right here. So when you're trying to figure out how to make an arm / leg bend in two different directions, you're kind of limited on your design choices. So, but yeah, he does get the over 90. And then he does get bicep swivel. You could go all the way around if necessary. Bring it a little closer here. You do get wrist rotation. And it's due to transformation, but if you needed it, you could bring those wrists in to get a little bit of a wrist angle as well. So, good articulation in the arms. Let's raise these up out of the way. You do get waist rotation all the way around if you need to. Very nice. The legs do the full Van Damme. Not much beyond, but you do get a good split. The legs kick forward that far. They kick backward. Again, you just need to be aware of these wings, but they kick backward that far. So you can get a nice gymnast split right there. And there he is going for gold. All right, you get thigh rotation. And then you do get the knee bend. Just under 90 on the knee bend, but that's plenty for posability, especially for a figure this size. And then for the feet, this isn't really functional, but it's there if he can't support his weight on that back heel spur. But if you wanted to get a pose where you would have his leg in a position where his toe and his heel were on the ground, as long as it wasn't supporting his weight, if the other foot was supporting his weight, you could do that for a pose. And then you get an amazing amount, 90 degrees of ankle tilt here. So great posability with this figure. Absolutely great posability. All right, so let's put him back in that position. Now, before I do the transformation, let's go ahead and bring him in, bring in the accessories and talk about where Wheelie sits and talk about the gun. So, gun, obviously, no surprise here. Plugs into his fist, so you do get the gun there, and then the 3D printed sword course, you could use in either hand, but again, I think that looks really good. Grimlock with a sword, for me, that's just iconic. So this fills it out for me. And then, of course, wheelie. Let's get the sword and the gun out of the way. We'll talk real quick before I move the gun. Let's talk real quick about the weapon storage in robot mode. Most people are probably going to have Grimlock holding the gun, but if for whatever reason you don't want to, simply come around back here. It doesn't matter which arm. You have this little cutout right there, and you can just plug that in to whichever arm you want, and then you have your weapon storage. So it's not the most elegant, but it gets the job done, and it's unobtrusive. So no complaints there. Now let's talk about wheelie. In robot mode, you have on wheelie, you have this peg right here on this leg, and then you have on Grimlock these holes on either shoulder, and these are where wheelie is designated to sit in robot mode, and he does a pretty good job. I mean, you just plug him in, and then you set him up the way you want to set him up. Yeah, not too bad. I like that. I think that's a really good addition. It definitely adds to the movie look. For those of you who remember Wheelie, he definitely made Grimlock his horse. So Wheelie loves to ride on Grimlock, and, well, there he is. So looks pretty nice. I think that's good for display. Move Wheelie on out of the way. Now we'll get down to the transformation. Those of you who have had Grimlocks in the past, Grimlock figures, there's not really going to be anything too surprising here. This is not the world's most complex transformation. It does the job, it works, and you're not going to get lost in the middle. Hopefully you're not going to need to refer to a YouTube video, at least after the first time. There are a couple parts where it's like, okay, that's some clever engineering, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. So what we'll do is, we talked about these fists earlier. We're just going to go ahead and pop those fists, and we're going to collapse those in so you get something like that. Do the same thing on the other side. And then just for fun. Now, you do have on the back here, what I like to do, I'm going to be quiet so you can hear that. So you have that little click, because what you want to do is you want to make sure that this is straight. So when you go into his dyno mode, that you're bending his leg in this position instead of down here. Okay, so we're going to straighten his legs out, or his arms for now. I guess they're still his arms. And you can go about him a couple different ways. You can either start with the chest, or you can start with the legs. I'm going to go ahead and start with the legs. So you take these feet, collapse the feet in. Now you'll notice that these are on double hinges. I'm not entirely sure why they needed to do that, but this will come into play. It gives you a little bit of ability to maneuver these for the dyno mode. So I don't think that they were entirely necessary, but they are there. All right, so now that you get the feet folded down, you just pull this leg out, and you'll notice back here that you have this cutout, and I want to say this is clever engineering, but I still don't trust it, and for the long haul, I don't think I would trust it. But if you look close, you have a post right here that this is sitting on, and these are meant to be guides to help position the leg. So as you fold this leg, this will guide the leg to move in or out depending on which mode he should be in. But I still like to just go ahead and move that in manually myself, just to save wear and tear on these plastic pieces here. So you do that, fold the leg up, and that's as far as it's going to go. Do the same thing on the other side. And then push that in, bring that up. All right, now turn him around. You should have something that looks like that. Now you see the tail pieces. These are on a double hinge. Pull the tail pieces out, collapse those. Tail piece, move his arm out of the way. There we go. And He's big enough. I may have to set him down to get some of this stuff done. So you should have something that looks like that. And then go ahead and bring this, swing this forward around his thigh. And do the same thing with the other side. Swing that forward around the thigh. And now you can just start collapsing the tail together. Tab everything in. Come around here to the back. Tab everything in. And then right here, this is what I was talking about. You've got a little bit of a slide. These sit on double hinges. Now, this just kind of helps line everything up when you get him into dyno mode. So now you come up here, grab the chest, pull the chest out, and that's sitting on a double hinge. Swing the chest down, and then collapse that in. So you should have something that looks like that. All right. And now to bring the chest wing pieces forward, well, sorry, before you do that, you have to collapse his head. Chest wing pieces forward, so you lift these up, swing it over the leg, and then bring it down. Same thing over here, lift it up, swing it over the leg, bring it down, and then you can tab the chest together, swing up the dyno head, adjust the arms, and then of course you can adjust the legs where you want. And this goes to what we were talking about earlier. I'm going to put a bend in the knee right there, and put a bend in the knee here. Tail doesn't want to stay tabbed for some reason. It's being a little stubborn. There you go. And adjust these legs how you see fit. And there you have Grimlock in his dyno mode. And yeah, he is... Oh, you're going to be like that, huh? There we go. Let's put a little bit more knee bend in him. There you go. And he is definitely G1 Grimlock. I mean, that is a pretty cool looking dyno bot right there. Good size, good accuracy, nice overall presence, like I said before. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about articulation in the dyno mode. Not a lot to speak of, but of course you do have his mouth will open that wide. He does have a good range of movement for his head, up, down. Now he doesn't have anything side to side, but he does have good up, down. Of course, the T-Rex arms, you have a joint here, so you can do pretty much what you want. They're on ball joints, so you can move them almost anywhere you want. You can say hello, or you Grimlock, hello. And nothing in the tail. The range of motion in the legs is, well, you saw them as arms. So if you wanted to get crazy, I mean, you could take them all the way around. And then, of course, you have what is now thigh rotation. And then for the knee bend, and you do not have any tilt. You just have the toe adjustment. So if you wanted to do something like that, you could. All right, now we'll bring in Wheelie, throw Wheelie on there. We'll talk about the effects in dyno mode, and then we'll bring in some dinosaur comparisons, and then go from there. So Mr. Wheelie, bringing him back. Let's go ahead and close Mr. Grimlock's mouth for a moment. So what I was saying earlier when we were taking a look at the box, you have these tabs right here and right here. And on Wheelie, you have these open holes right here. So you just take Wheelie, line him up, get him in those holes, and then he fits nice and secure on the back of Grimlock right there. Again, that's a really cool look. I like it. There's not much else you can do with Wheelie, but you know, for a display purpose, that looks really cool. So he's a nice addition. No, not really anywhere else on Dino Mode to put him. I mean, I guess you could have Grimlock holding him if you wanted. Maybe do something like that. But that's about the extent of Wheelie's usefulness in Dino Mode. He does have weapon storage in Dino Mode. We'll talk about that real quick. So on the weapon itself, you have these two tabs. Trying to get a good look at them. Well, there's one here, and then you have these two slots right there and right there. There we go. And so it's just a matter of aligning the tabs and the slots and storing the weapon on the back. This isn't the easiest thing to do, especially when I have a camera in my way when I'm trying to see what I'm doing here. Bear with me. So slide one of those up. There we go. Got one in. And success. All right. So there you go. There is his weapon storage in Dino Mode. Again, not the most elegant, but it works if you don't want to lose the weapon. Unfortunately, I don't have anywhere that I can put the sword in Dino Mode, so I just need to put that off to the side. Excuse me. So, let's talk about effects. In Dino Mode, he has the ever popular post here in his mouth where you can get, if you have the effects from Omega Supreme, Skylynx, Jetfire, these are 5mm ports, so you can set that up and you can get a nice fire-breathing dinosaur. And then scattered throughout his body in robot and dinosaur mode, you have the ports. So if you want him getting shot in the leg, you could do something like that. If you wanted him to get shot in the tail, you could do something like that. Of course, if you want him to get shot in the shoulder, you could do something like that. I think that covers all of them in Dino Mode. And then in Robot Mode, he does have this one. So if you want to pull a Starscream and shoot him in the back, you could do that as well. All right, so now what I want to do, I'm going to do the comparisons a little differently than I normally would. I want to bring in a couple of Grimlocks that they only make sense for a comparison when they're in Dino Mode, because the robot modes don't look anything like Grimlock in G1 for robot mode. So it's not really a fair comparison, and you'll see what I mean when I bring them in. So let's go ahead and we'll set him up. Yeah, let's angle him that way. Just set him right there. So the first thing that I'm going to bring in, he's not even a Grimlock. He's just a T-Rex, but it's a nice comparison, and it's always good to let him get in another video. We'll bring in Barney, aka Kingdom Beast Wars Megatron. So you can see how he lines up there. All right, let's go and move him on out of the way. And then we will bring in the leader class Grimlock from the Age of Extinction movie. And let's turn Grimmy this way. So, yeah, definitely a Michael Bay inspired T-Rex here, but as you guys know, the robot mode for the Bayverse Grimlock looks nothing like the G1 robot mode, so I'm not even going to make that comparison. We're going to save those for some other figures. And then, for the final T-Rex comparison, we will bring in the Grimlock Studio Series. Not Studio Series 86, but the Studio Series Grimlock. And it may be hard to make out some of that detail coming at you right directly because this guy's so panely and has so many alien style features, it's difficult to make him out. So let's turn him to the side. So this Studio Series Grimlock definitely has a size advantage over this Studio Series 86 Grimlock. But for those of you who are purists, and I fall into that category, is I still like him more. Just because this is the Grimlock that I know and love. This is a relatively mindless, non-speaking role, alien-looking beast. Cool in his own right, but I was never able to see him as the Grimlock that I know and love. All right, so now what we'll do, we'll get him transformed into robot mode. I will bring in the Grimlock robot comparisons, and then we'll talk about the effects in the robot mode very briefly, and we'll do a few more comparisons, and we'll wrap it up, and we'll let you guys go on with your day. So, transformation on this Grimlock. Again, nothing too amazing. You can grab the head here, just pull that out of the way. You break open the chest cavity. I don't care who you are, it's always fun to say that. Break open the chest cavity. Swing these up and back. Go ahead and bring the head up now if you want to. And then grab the chest just down here somewhere. That pulls away. Again, on a double hinge, swing it up. Lines up right there, those tabs and slots. Then you start breaking the legs apart. All right, and you can just open this one, collapse the tail. Same thing on the other side. Swing these down. And remember, you've got these guides back here. Now I'm not going to push it. I'm going to see if I can get my light in there, and I'm just going to move this back without trying to move this over manually, just to see how well it works. So yeah, that actually does a pretty good job. Long term, I'd be worried about wear and tear, but seems to do all right there. So try the same thing over here. Yeah, slides in. So that's a pretty clever little design. Definitely give a thumbs up to the designer that came up with that. So then you collapse this portion. Do the same thing on the other side. Bring out the heel spur. And we're almost home, guys. So then you can just take the head back here, bring that all the way down. You've got a tab and a slot. Bring that all the way down. Push the head down as far as it'll go, just to clean up that backpack. And do what you will with the arms back here. I just like to kind of angle them like that. The T-Rex arms, sorry. I just kind of angle them down like that so they're out of the way. And then up here for the, what were the legs and are now the arms, you have right here, let's see if I can get in on that, you've got a tab here and then you've got this little slot at the top of his bicep. So right here is where the knee bend is when these are legs. So what you want to do is you want to push that up until that clicks in, and now that locks that portion of the arm in place. Then you can come back here, and then you can pull that out till it clicks, and now you have free motion for the elbow. So go ahead and grab that fist, bring it out. Same thing on the other side, push that in, and pull this out. And grab the fist, push these claws back. And again, got my floppy wing back here. But there you have Grimlock back in his robot mode. So now I'll bring in for the... No, I'll do the effects first and robot mode. So again, a lot of like what you saw in the dinosaur mode. There's not going to be a whole lot new here, except now we're going to bring in his gun. And we'll give Grimlock his gun. And the gun, yes, is effects compatible. I have found that the smaller effects work best on this just due to the distance between the ends of the double barrel here. So if you just use the smaller ones, you don't get any interference. They're not bumping into each other, that kind of stuff. And you get a really good looking, well, unless he gets a little crazy right there. Oh no, it fell off. There we go. I don't think I had it in all the way. So you get a really good looking effect right there with that gun. I think that looks pretty sweet. So, yep, good effects compatibility with the gun. And again, in the robot mode, you have what were once his legs are now his arms. You have the ports on the side, so you could do any number of things there. You have one on his thigh, so you could get all kinds of crazy action going on. Like I said earlier, you could do the Starscream shot in the back kind of thing. And of course I pick on Starscream because we all know that he's a coward. So yeah, not too bad. His effects compatibility is pretty good. I don't think I've shown this off in any other reviews, and I don't know why I'm showing it off here, but for those who don't know, yes, you can use his fists, and he can wield fire, I guess. Alright, so for Grimlock robot mode comparisons, the first one that we'll bring in is the G1 Grimlock. Now, guys, before I bring this in, I want to say forgive me, please. This has been my toy since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I played with my toys. So Grimlock is not in the best of shape, but understand that he's been well loved and he's had a long, fruitful life of being played with. So there is my wobbly-legged G1 headless Grimlock, and I say headless because you may notice that he doesn't have a head for the dinosaur mode anymore. But again, well loved. I love this guy. He went so many places with me when I was a kid. So, all that aside, really good homage here. I mean, the face sculpt, the head sculpt is real similar. Of course, the chest, the waist looks good. Forearms, you know, the legs are a little different here, but that's just simply due to the transformation of a 1980s toy. You've got the tail tips flopped off to the side here, whereas the engineering on this leg section here is much better. But overall, looks pretty good. He's got the chest wings in the back. So, really cool what they've done here. I mean, this is obvious, an obvious homage to the G1 toy. And of course, it's based on the Grimlock that we saw in Transformers the movie 1986, which was based on the G1 toy. So, great job here overall. All right, well, we can leave him there. And then, I'm going to go ahead and take him out. And then, this is the Grimlock from the Fall of Cybertron. So, again, you've got some similarities there. Good detail here. I like what they did with this Grimlock, but the engineering was lacking. You know, you don't have as much articulation. Dino mode, in my opinion, was a little weak. I'm not the biggest fan of what they did here with the shoulder transformation. But, you know, again, stacking up robot mode to robot mode, there's some similarities there, but this guy takes the cake for sure. All right, and then what we'll do is we will bring in the Studio Series 86 family, what I have so far in the collection. So we'll put Mr. Grimlock right there in the middle. And then, okay, so first one, I know this isn't part of the Studio Series 86. I know it's part of the Kingdom line. I don't care. He was in the 86 movie. He's a brilliant Transformer. The engineering on him is fantastic. So I'm bringing in Cyclonus. That's a pretty good relation there, I think, or correlation in the height for scale. And then we'll bring in Hot Rod. They look pretty cool together, I gotta admit. I'm gonna move him back a little bit because I think we're gonna get kind of crowded here. And he is gonna be the big boy of the group, so. Bring in Cup, because I know Cup and Grimlock always had a nice relationship. Bring in Blur. And last but not least, we will bring in Mr. Jazz. So yeah, that is one really good looking group. I like that. So just taking a moment here to admire that. That looks nice. If I can finally get my hands on a Scourge, then at least for this wave, the Studio Series 86 will be complete and I will be all kinds of happy. So let's wrap it up. I know I've kept you guys here long enough. So my verdict on this guy, it's going to be biased, and I admit that, but get him. Plain and simple. I wouldn't go on eBay and pay $70 for him, but I think for what you get as an overall presence in Dino mode and Robot mode, this guy's really good. I think $49.99, $50 is an okay price point. He is a leader class. He does exude that size, so he does have that commanding presence. He's fun to handle. Other than this loose wing back here, every other joint on him, the quality control is great. I didn't have any flaws on mine. I like the way he feels in my hand. Transformation is fun. It's simplistic, but it is effective. So if you can find him, I would recommend him. Pick him up. Wheelie is fun. You know, he's limited in what he can do in a play environment, but for a display, it's great to have him. Again, kudos go out to Firetox on Thingiverse for this sword. I would recommend if you guys can. Like I said earlier, I'll put a link in the description. Go out there, print one of these off. I think they're a great addition to Grimlock. Grimlock with the sword is always perfect. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. So, get him. I don't think there's anything more to be said. He's a great addition to this line, and he's a great addition overall to your collection. So, with that, just want to say thank you for tuning in. I know it's been kind of a long review. I get kind of windy about this stuff, but it's a passion of mine, so I enjoy talking about these guys and bringing them to you. If you like what we do here, as always, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We are on Rumble, rumble.com, or the Rumble app. You can look for us there. If you're using us on Rumble, give us a Rumble, which is their version of a like. Leave us some comments. Let us know what we can be doing, what you guys want to see, what we could be doing better. Any feedback is welcome. I said it in every review. I'm going to say it again. I do this because I love it. I do this because if I can just have some people stumble upon these videos and go, whoa, what are these guys? And these are so cool, and I want to get into this world, then it's a win for me. Because the more people get involved with Transformers and get passionate about them, the more people are going to get involved with the design and the feedback to Hasbro, to Takara, to these third-party companies, so we get better transformations, more accurate alt modes and robot modes. And it's just that snowball effect, and it just becomes incredible, and we get figures as good as this or better than this down the road. So I'll stop talking now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Leave us some comments, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.